You want the Republicans to win? Your generation doesn't care about anything.
I don't understand.
Maybe we can find someone else. Oh, officer! Officer!
Yes.
Officer! We're two lost, scared, hungry, lonely children. Can you help us find Mom's house?
There's no time. The streets are a dangerous place. You kids are out past curfew.
That didn't help at all.
Seemed that no one would help them. They wandered and wandered until they came to the suburbs, and then wandered some more until...
Oh, look over there! Look at that house!
What house?
That house!
Wow! That house! It's got solar panels, and fruit trees, and blackberry bushes, and grapes growing up the side! Holy smokes! A whole fleet of hybrid cars! And that garden! Surely one person couldn't tend that whole garden. They must have servants or something.
Actually, kids, they're called woofers. I'm Tom Tobine, and this is my estate. Can I invite you in for some mocha burgers and soy ice cream?
We sure are hungry!
Then come feast on nature's bounty.
Okay!
I'll keep them here on my estate and fatten them up on soy ice cream to be the finest, free-range, organic human meat. The kids ate their fill, and with full bellies slept better than they had in a long time. The next morning, Gretel woke up, and Hansel was nowhere to be found. The door to her room had been locked.
What's going on? What are these creepy bars? And the door is locked. Where's Hansel? Mr. Tobine, what's going on?
Now, Gretel, you should consider yourself lucky.
What?
Yes, a conservative farm would have you locked in a tiny box with no windows, and you'd be fed horrible food by a total stranger. Here you'll eat the finest organic soy foods from California, and your brother will be in charge of feeding you. Now, doesn't that sound better? Hansel! Go fetch water and soy for your sister. Hurry up, or I'll lock you in as well.
Hansel, get me out of here.
Gretel! I can't! If I get caught, then I'll just be in there with you! And what good will that do us? If we play it cool, maybe we can convince him to let us go!
Hansel and Gretel spent the next week making well-reasoned arguments and speaking truth to power. A public awareness campaign brought letters from all over the country, and a petition with thousands of signatures was presented to Mr. Tobine. Until finally, one day, you know, I've been thinking a lot lately. I think a lot. And you kids are right.
Really?
Yes. This whole ordeal has been very undemocratic. You two should have a say in all of this. I know. Let's vote. What kind of food do you want? And when do you want it? A bigger room? More recreational activities? Why? I've got balance right here.
But, Mr. Tobine, I just want to go home.
Yeah, I don't see that on the ballot this time. But if you don't vote, you can't complain.
Hansel, get me out of here.
Gretel, if we tried that now, we could lose all the progress we've made. Maybe next time we can get even better stuff on the ballot.
Hansel, Mom's house will never be on the ballot.
The next morning...
Excuse me, Mr. Tobine?
Ah, yes, Gretel?
I just wanted to thank you for yesterday's elections. This room really is a whole lot bigger, and I really feel like my voice was heard.
Yes, how very fair of me.
Right, how fair. Anyway, I was hoping that maybe I could get like a knife or something. My Boca Burger is really tough today. I think Hansel might have overcooked it.
Haha, yes, that Hansel, what a character.
Yeah.
Sure, here you go. It's from the villagers of Guatemala. Me and my wife were down there recently, and they are just the nicest folks. They get paid fairly for it, because it's this thing, fair trade. Yeah, because I'm such a fair guy.
Right, well, I got a secret for a fair
Oh, yeah,
guy.
no.
Can you just come over here and let me...
Gretel and Hansel returned home to find that Dick's band's tour band had flipped.
Whoops!
Killing him instantly. So they could move back in with their mother, and they all lived happily ever after. The end.
So, the next thing we're going to do is play a really fun game called Pass Us the Letters. Who wants to play? Thank you for your assistance, audience. While we're playing this
Who
extremely...
wants to pass up a severed head?
Oh, I got that.
Okay, great. It's a more fun game.
So for those of you who walked in, after that, no.
Socialized healthcare.
Other jokes. Brick-related, cat-related, anarchist-related. Puppet-related? That would be
We haven't
on
heard
topic.
any puppet-related jokes, so
I mean,
come on, Houston.
they're not very
New Orleans said y'all had a lot of jokes, but I guess they were a bunch of liars.
Oh, sounded like a challenge to me.
I don't want to have to go to San Antonio and say Houston doesn't have any jokes.
Okay, I have one.
Okay, we got one.
Did you hear about the new corduroy pillows?
No, I did not.
They're making headlines.
Yes! That was a good one. Nice. Other jokes? You should know about the joke.
What's brown and sticky?
Mistake! What's brown and sounds like a bell?
I don't know. So our second show, as you can see, is a shadow puppet show. So we have dimmed the lights again. I'm going to scurry away behind the stage, and in just a moment, we will present to you our second show, What Are Prisons For?
Excuse me, Mr. Rios?
Yes, Donnie.
I know we're the freest country on earth, and we're at war abroad for freedom. And I know that freedom isn't free and stuff, but it just seems a little strange, or weird, or just sort of confusing,
But
isn't 2.5 million a lot of people to have in prison?
I suppose it is, Donnie.
Why is it like that, Mr. Rios?
Well, Donnie, it all started 519 years ago. Let's jump in our magic time machine and check it out.
Boy.
Land ho!
Ah, visitors.
Aha! Slaves!
After speaking at length about how wonderful and friendly the natives were, Columbus concluded, "These the people are very unskilled in arms. With 50 men they could all be subjugated and made to do all that one wished. Bada bing, bada boom." For the next 300 years, Britain emptied their prisons onto the new continent, using convicts for free labor to build the new colony. "You are guilty of stealing a loaf of bread. The punishment for that is death."
Oh, please don't kill me, sir. It's just a loaf of bread, you know.
Okay, I guess I could pardon you if you voluntarily, of your own accord, totally willingly agree to do 14 years labor in the new colony.
Well, I suppose by comparison to death, that sounds rather fair, sir. Thank you, Your Honor.
Britain started trading in slaves from Africa and other continents as well. These slaves were treated even worse than their European counterparts and had no hope of being free after finishing their sentences. British convict labor continued until the American Revolution in 1776, where
America versus Britain.
Cage match.
Capitalists win.
Afterward, many documents were written about the way things were gonna be, but some of them lost a lot in the editing process. This would become a recurring theme. The first draft of the Declaration of Independence went more like this. It was a cruel war against human nature itself, violating its most sacred rights of life and liberty in the persons of a distant people who never offended anyone, captivating and carrying them into slavery in another hemisphere, or to incur a miserable death in their transportation.
Yes, that's all well and good, Mr. Jefferson. It just strikes me as a little, wordy. Yes, wordy. Perhaps we could cut a thing or two out. What do you say?
The finished document vaguely referred to a long train of abuses, and references to slavery were avoided entirely. Everything was changing. Well, except international slavery and debtors' prisons and convict leasing and indigenous genocide for westward expansion and the destruction of the land base.
That doesn't actually sound like things changed that much.
Well, no, I suppose not. Anyway, it was around this time that Quakers really started pushing for the abolition of slavery.
That's great.
They also started pushing for prison reforms,
That's also great.
which to them included promoting bigger, more sophisticated prisons and unpaid prison labor.
But that's basically slavery.
Well, they thought they were alleviating the cruelest parts of prison life through a series of reforms.
Wait a minute, Mr. Rios. Slavery is bad, right?
It is indeed, Donnie.
And Quakers are trying to stop slavery and do goodness, right?
They are indeed, Donnie.
Then how does them doing reforms end up making more slavery? Maybe I don't understand what reform means.
Clearly you don't. We're gonna have to sing a song.
R is for reform, A is for abolition.
To fix or to destroy can be a tough decision.
If bad's gotta be bigger just to make it better, it may be best off thrown away altogether.
R is for reform. A is for abolition.
They say the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
R is for reform, that's not good enough, you see. Bigger cages, longer chains won't make us free. R is for reform, that's not good enough, you see. R is for reform, that's not good enough for me.
Once the new institutions were in place, the well-intentioned Quakers were pushed out, and harsher, crueler, more sadistic people took their place. But these harsh changes did not come without resistance. let's hop in my magic time machine and head back to 1820 at Auburn Prison in New York, where a harsh new warden is demanding total obedience from guards and prisoners alike. You! God! Give this prisoner a good whipping!
Oh, but sir, he's done nothing to deserve a whipping today.
That's it! You're fired!
Oh, my wife will be furious.
You there! Other guard!
Yes, sir?
Whip this prisoner!
This prisoner, sir?
Yes, whip him!
Oh, but sir, that's mean and cruel, and why this prisoner?
That's it! You're fired! You there! Other guard!
Yes, sir.
I was wondering if you could, as a personal favor to me.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I have this thing that I need done. After lunch, maybe.
After lunch would be great.
Yeah, if you had a little time, maybe you could whip this prisoner! After 3 guards had been fired, finally a blacksmith working nearby stepped in.
I hear someone needs a whipping?
Later that evening, as the blacksmith walked home from work.
Long day. Whipping and blacksmithing. Gonna go home and crack me a lager.
He was greeted by a crowd of townspeople who had heard what had happened inside. The vigilantes ripped off the blacksmith's clothes, covered him in hot tar from head to toe, and carried him around the prison on a rail, with the ringleader skipping along, taking feathers and sticking them to the hot tar.
Oh my goodness! Oh, the hot tar, how it burns! Oh, this is what I get for whipping and scabbing my fellow man!
When the prisoners caught wind of the commotion, some of them revolted and set fire to the prison.
Present fact. The Quakers were really into the idea of penitence, which to them meant solitary confinement and enforced silence. Many prisoners subjected to these conditions became mentally ill, killing and mutilating themselves in great numbers. Where are we now, Mr. Rios?
We're in the swamps of Louisiana, just outside New Orleans.
Where are the oily birds, flaming turtles, beached dolphins, and greenwashing PR hacks?
No, Donnie, it's the 1830s, and we're here to talk about slavery and the state of the South. There were almost 2 million enslaved black people in Louisiana. That's just shy of half the population.
Wow, Mr. Rios! How do a bunch of backwards hicks manage a complex system of repression to keep half the population from rising up and settling the score?
Well, Donnie, I think you're operating under a few misconceptions. Far from being backwards hicks, actually, while the North was pioneering new prisons, the South was developing the model that would become the modern police force.
Wow! Well, I guess the South invented lots of things.
It sure did. Bands of deputized slave catchers became more and more sophisticated and grew in numbers. The threat of slave insurrections, putting an end to slavery, forced whites to develop their systems of control at a breakneck pace. The South was actually the first place in the world to use many of the techniques and tools we associate with
Modern police forces.
Thanks to their ingenious combination of militias and slave patrols, white racism, and slave codes.
So people just let all this happen?
Of course not. Once again, there was resistance. Guerrillas like Harriet Tubman, John Brown, and Nat Turner exacerbated tensions between northern and southern capitalists until
North
Versus South!
K And with that, the 13th Amendment was passed, officially ending slavery. Well, with one minor exception. We will allow neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime. So you are all free, except for you, and you, and you, and you in the back. You're going to jail.
Wait! So, did slavery end or didn't it?
Well, it gets a little complicated, Donnie. For all its innovations, the South still hadn't figured out how to pay people for their labor yet. So you see, although they were growing lots of crops, their economy was devastated from the Civil War. So, using the giant loophole in the 13th Amendment must have been awfully convenient.
But if the South was producing so much, why couldn't they at least give the workers some money?
Well, for all their moral posturing, businessmen in the North still depended on having free labor in the South. So along with their Southern counterparts, they rented black prisoners to produce raw materials for the factories in the North.
Present fact. After slavery was abolished in the U.S., states still kept black people from owning guns or voting under the slave codes, renamed black codes. While they officially ended long ago, these codes have actually remained intact in various forms right up to the present day. Convict leasing, the practice of renting out prisoners, was one of the first ways in which Northern and Southern capitalists re-enslaved black people and poor whites. The practice continued in most of the South until 1920.
This didn't always happen along racial lines, nor did it progress without resistance. When companies tried to use convict labor to break miners' strikes in Tennessee in 1891, it didn't go over so well. It's time machine time.
Can I try?
You remember the space-time continuum and what happened last time.